Okay, guys, I think this is the last video. And then I'm dropping this thing, right? Introduction to swing trading, guys. As you all know, swing trading is basically you holding trade like for long term. Whether swing trading, if you held a trade overnight, it's already swing, right? 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever thing, right? But then like it involves like two principles, which is trade management and 'cause at the same time you want to swing your trades. At the same time, you also want to make as much money as possible, right? So basically, while you're holding your trades, you want to be able to have some profits locked. You want to be able to trade your stop, right? So I'm just going to teach you like the simplest trade management, and I think it's pretty much common with our um the strategy that we use, especially on structure, right? Before I teach our swing trade, let me start with that one, right? And I'm just gonna refer to theory only because I'm not trying to teach you, but there's going to be a specific video, but then I felt like it's going to be fair enough if I already introduce you to the trade management that you all can use or the one that I use to usually hold my trades for long, even if it's scalping, right? So basically, let's say for an example, you have in your area here, right? The demand area, right? Price hits into this, right? Let's say you're not aggressive, right? Let's say you're not aggressive, price hits into your area of interest, right? Shifting structure, you hold into this, right? Let's say this is M5, right? You having your level, whatever here, you'll be having obviously a new demand here, right? Let's say you enter your position, right? As soon as you enter your position, profit at pace start running. You don't put trade to break even. Let's say your trade is just below this or below the overall area of interest, right? And then number one, you're having a new what breaking structure, right? Before you can lock your profits here, before you can lock your if before you can put this trade to break even, you wanna wait for price to print the low and breaks into this, right? Because now, and the theory is that if price if price breaks into like print a high a low, this low is protected. So you're already assuming that price can retrace, but then it must not break into it. Because if we breaking into this, yes, there will be that situation where you're experiencing something like this, and then price still pushes, right? But then the theory is that if price, unless price pullback never made it, but then it doesn't really matter whether it's indicated or not, right? The point that I'm trying to make, if price print, you assume that this low is protected, so price must not come lower than this, right? Hence, you become confident enough to actually break into that. And when price does things like this, you put your stop loss above and the protected low, right? Because you assume price can retrace, but then it must not come into this. Already you're locked, whether it's 0.5% or whatever the case is, right? But then it's also important for you to align if, let's say, you locked because of M5. Hence there's going to be a specific video for this, right? If um if you lock the trade on M5, try to check the M5 structure in alignment with the M15 because it's the one of the most important. If, for example, on M15 you had something like this where you entered the trade and then you're seeing a shift on M15, a pullback, and the price pushes, and that's the only time you lock, just know you're pretty much safe from price going a bit deeper if you can actually buy. Right? Especially if on M15 you see something, a high going and then price prints a low, and then it pushes and it puts your SL here. It's mainly for swing trading, especially. You know for sure that, okay, we're going to take one. And then next, because why? The M15, what high it's going, right? And the other thing about trade management is that before you can actually break the next high, take profits or partials on like supply areas because sometimes you'll be having something like this and then price pushing, right? Or you'll be having something like this and price does things like this before you can actually push because whatever low that it's here is still weak. Okay, I'm making sense. I'm making sense with whatever I'm trying to say. You should take profit on these supply areas. Obviously, overall the price is bullish, but then you should be able to take that, to avoid that, because you want to pay yourself as much as you can. Apart from that, as it brings a new low, you trade your stop loss just below this because price must not come. You understand? Like it's basically whatever thing that you're using. You don't just wake up, price just float into profit, and then you just put SL and come to take you break even, and then it flies again, and then it like you you kind of start crying, right? And then the other thing about swing trading is the fact that you should be good in aligning the daily and the H4, especially if you're that kind of person who's okay, it's still okay. If you're that kind of person who swings for like a week, 2 weeks, you should be good in aligning the daily and the H4. Those are your killer time frames for you to be able to actually catch these swing trade, to actually be precise on what's going to happen for the next 5 days, for the next 6 days. So basically, if we go on, okay, let me just, let's say Bitcoin. Let's say Bitcoin for an example. Let's go on Bitcoin. Right. So on Bitcoin, one thing that we can see here, even though like it doesn't move, like however, but then it's still an instrument and our strategy can work on any instrument, right? So looking at the current price, okay, let's do this. Let's do something like this. I want it where it started to shift. Right. So let's look at this. Right. So basically, okay, let me put this thing back to theory, right? Because I'm trying to figure out the best way to actually lay this thing out to you, because this is the last video and I'm trying to actually push so that I can send you the content, right? So basically, right, you want something like this. Let's say this is your daily, right? Let's say this is your daily time. And then what are you having? You're having a break structure here, right, on a daily time frame. You obviously looking for a pullback, right? And the most recommended swings are pro trending, guys. If you really want to be profitable swinging, don't focus on selling here. Here, just look at scalps, right? Because most of the time it's difficult for the market to actually just reverse into your level, right? Especially if it's gonna sell for days. You're gonna experience price doing something like this, before you can actually go deeper and you into swing trading. So these floating profits, they're going to affect you, right? So you want the market to actually align in the direction that you're actually looking for, to align with structure. So basically, if you like me, you can start like scalping within the C price if you were to hold, taking partials or whatever the case is, right? But then if you're strictly swinging, this is what you're having on a daily, right? Having something like this. You're having something like this on a daily time frame, right? And then you're having let's say whatever, obviously this become your whole demand range, right? And then you having something like this. Let's say this is your area of interest. Right? And then this is your what is a daily time frame, right? Right. This is what you expect in theory, right? Um, something like this. I know it's too perfect, but on H4, you've already broken down that okay, this is what you actually expecting. On H4, so on a daily you'll be having something like this. But then on H4, you want to see something like this. As printing a high, hello, taking these boys, coming back. It doesn't really matter here. You're not interested. You're just gonna be catching those scalps if you also scalping sometimes, and then you having price printing this. You having price printing something like this, right? And then you want to see price aligning first. So if the H4 high goes, H4, right? Look at this thing. Me saying, guys, you should be able to align H4 and M15 for you to know the direction of the day. you need to be able to align the daily and the H4 for you to know the direction of the week. How powerful is that? Like it's one and the same thing, it's just different time frames. Right? Because now if the H4 aligns, everybody that's here is going to get taken out. Right? So you'd want to for price to retrace into this, even if it doesn't fully breaks the high, and then maybe you'll be entering here if you miss this. And then you know for sure, as price does this, you're just gonna be holding until this objective is taken out. Right? And when you wake up, you'll be holding that for a week. Right? If you're having deeper levels, like unmitigated level, let's say here, you're just gonna hold till like your objective is complete, even though you could experience something like, let's say, price decides to do something like this. You know, like at the end of the day, the objective is going to meet because price is in alignment with that. All right, let's look at price here before it flew. Right, still gonna make a whole lot of live example. Basically, by now I should be holding zooms. Okay, we'll be holding zooms, which is gonna add to the cost. Okay, it's still fine. Right. Let's look at this. Right. Let's look at I think at this point this thing was in alignment with the weekly. I just want to check something here. So basically, and sometimes it's so important for you to go on the weekly, as you can see, you guys. Basically, okay, that's too far. I wanted to show you this swing, but it's too far. Let's just go on the current one. Right. So guys, basically here, as you can see, what are you seeing on the weekly? I should not be discussed 19 to actually pay this. I should be able to really break price into this, price into this. Right, because it's gonna make things much more easier, not only for myself, but then also for me breaking down into this, because we're still gonna do a whole lot of like trade recaps, trade whatsoever. Right. So guys, here as you can see on the weekly, we had price. Okay, cool. This is what I want to stay around. Right. We had price printing this, right? This low, right? And then breaks. So you could say the overall structure is between this and this, guys. I feel like I'm not in my prime. It's just that I was busy, so I just have to keep up to this promise. You're having something like this, right? A break, so meaning possibly we expecting something probably, right? That's what we could expect from price, right? But then there's one thing that we can also see. We see this here, right, on the weekly time frame, right? So this is the level that actually pushed price at these 2 weeks to actually push, and it was never mitigated, right? Meaning if we break into this, that's when time we believe price will come into that, right? And then what are we seeing? Seeing this as our weekly objective where we'll be ready to push price, maybe price react here, okay, dead, maybe till this high or till this or whatever the case is, right? But then obviously we're looking into deeper prices, probably to see that thing go, or probably to see this, that, depending on what you're analyzing, right? But then there's a point that I'm trying to make in terms of aligning time frames. We having this as our objective, right? And what does price do? Is this high? Price pushes a bit higher, right? So wanna see if this level will hold, meaning that in terms of order flow, but they're not structure though. In terms of order flow, we're having a new demand area here. Right. It's not pretty much clear. We can't say we're gonna buy into that 'cause structure. It's not clear because we only broke with the week, right? But then we do understand the possibilities. Guys, in this situation, you want to see probably this high going first for you to know that this thing held, and then price pull back and then you push. You understand? Especially if you're having these kind of levels below this. Right. So this is our weekly objective, right? So you want to see price, you see, breaks those low, Did it hit that level? Let's see. I don't know if it did hit. Yeah, it did hit. Let's go on the daily. But then usually it was supposed to actually hit into this, like with all honesty, it was supposed to hit into this. So if price didn't hit into this, guys, as you know, guys, as strict as we are, we don't take levels like that that reactor out of nowhere. You get what I'm saying? We don't just take levels that reacted out of nowhere. You understand? At this point, with all honesty, guys, if price decided to do something like this, are you expecting it to react off of this or off of this for it to actually still push a bit deeper? Because usually when it does that, when price misses price like this, it just wanna do its own things. Maybe it's because of I don't trade Bitcoin as much, but then I do invest into it, by the way. You understand? So let's just assume price hits into this so that like, the example that I'm trying to make, to give you all, because it did break into the next structures, right? Let's say price hits into this, right? Hits into these levels, right? So you want to see price aligning, right, with the H4 before you can actually buy, right? And as you can see, the last high that we had on the daily was this. Right? We could assume that was the last high that we had, right? And we can also agree that okay, this is what because there are larger breaks, as you can see, this is a larger break, so we can assume that okay, this is was our H4 overall break, right? Just fix this is concerned. So this is our overall H4 break, right? This is what broke into this, and then we started seeing a shift, as you can see on H4, like, okay, cool. As soon as you start seeing a shift on H4, you're confident enough to say this next high it's going. Right. You just want need something like this, price pulling back probably to this and then pushing, right? But then what do you see here? Let's go in H4. Just want to show you something quickly. No, we shouldn't. Let me just do this. Correct. I just want to show you something quickly. Like even on the daily, guys, you can break this thing down. You can go just to H4 for clarity, right? We see something like this. If you experience, this is an H4 break. Guys, I'm talking to advanced students here. Right? Because you're having an H4 shift here, you're obviously expecting a pullback, right? And as you can see, we had price retracing here, creating a new demand area, right? So basically, when price printed this, something like this, still on the daily, right? Created this new demand area, right? You at this point, you're not only having this alone, you're also having this, which is if price came into this would be free food, right? Because you're having this shift, right? So now your theory would be that, because now I'm not trying to mix the content, I want to stick to swing trading because like we're on the live market, I just want to show you something. Right. So you'd assume that if this low goes, for sure, price is gonna react into this because this was the last demand area following order flow that was created. And even with structural wise, most definitely confidently looking for price to actually react into that, like in something like that. But then you have in this, right? And then what does price do? Right? Comes a bit deeper into that, you now having this high, right? And then what does price do? React off of that, react off of that, doesn't take the high, doesn't take the low. We know that regardless of what price does, we know that we're still bullish. Probably price action at this point is pretty much clearer on the daily, and then we see that high going mainly because this last demand area was not taken out, right? And you'll be playing with confirmations on a lower time frame, right? Something like this. Um, sure. Let's go. Let's go. As you can see, guys, on H4, like this is like the last thing that we had. Price comes into this side, goes into deeper levels. You having this as your overall supply. Right? You consider it. Hence, price was able to do the things that they did here. Right? But then one thing that I'm seeing is that before price broke, it didn't align with this, but then it didn't change the fact that we're bullish, right? So if you go and on M15 at this point, if you go on M15, this was the last price action before price actually went down, right? Meaning that you actually having something like this. Bitcoin is not as clean, guys. It's not as clean. Hence, like once you find a pair that you trade really good, just focus on it. Not it alone, just also find for something that's relating to it. Then we started seeing a shift on M15, and then we had this as our whole overall demand. We had price from here to here as our overall demand area. And most definitely be expecting price to hit into this, which it did. I thought it didn't hit before I can actually push price to the downside. But then I'm not as done. I want to show you what I'm talking about. I want to show you what I'm talking about here. M15 will allow us to go that far. Will you? Bitcoin flies. You see, guys, I'm this experienced, guys. Like, I'm this experienced. You see what I'm talking about when I was saying we're having an M15 shift. You just got to have a trade eye. And then this would be your lower break, right? And then this would be, I know that, guys, I'm not explaining it probably as properly, but if I'm making sense, at least I should be able to print an idea for you guys. So now M15 is in alignment. Remember, for you to actually buy into the next level on H4, M15 must align, H4 must align with the M15 because now our overall objective is this, remember, as an overall structure on H4. Price comes into a specific level, breaks M15 highs. M15 is now in alignment with the H4, which is pretty much of a good sign, right? But then one thing that we see is that price did break into this, came to mitigate it, right? Which is soon I did come and mitigate it again, right? Comes mitigate this, shift into this again, that it come into that unmitigated, comes into the unmitigated, okay, wiped it, which is fine. If you refine it, you'll find it, guys. And then start flying, right? This was not going to be the best, but I hope, guys, you get the idea. Like, it goes on how you monitor it. I think when it comes to swing trading, I should just pay for a trading view and break it down. But I'll break it down with some of the ideas that we're going to go on to PhD, Nazam Red, and then yeah, the overall target for me, not overall, would be this, like where I'm taking most of my partials, and then yeah. And with sim trading, it's that, guys, being able to align the like being able to have a direct sync between H4 and the daily, or the daily with the H4, that direct sync. If you can do that, right? Obviously in help with the M50, right? I think the M50, okay, you can even go lower, but then the M15 should be like where you're trying to say, okay, this is my last time frame for you to know, okay, this is what's going on, unless you're trying to go into refinement. But then if you're about to see like too much refinement are not needed because you're just gonna be missing on some really good swing trades, right? And then you buy into the next objective. And then that's it. That's it. I don't know if ever like I did make any sense or something like that, but then I hope that I did. And there's still more that goes into it as you mix everything together. And we will, like going forward, I'm just gonna be teaching you all content based on the leading studies, not based on the old content, which is still one and the same thing. It's just that now we're pretty much in depth with everything. And then that's, I think that's it. Like that's the example that I could make. Like for an example, with the current market, if you go on the daily, right? If you go on the daily, let's look at this for an example, right? What are you having? You had the market printing this smaller range, right? Here, we see this boy is getting wiped and price being able to be strong enough to create a new range or to break into the next high, right? So basically on the daily, we're having something like this demand, right? And we know for sure for a fact that we're targeting on the next high, right? Because this low right here is strong, right? Getting tired, guys. I had a very busy day. When you get to this video, you're gonna see like a shift in energy because that was tired. And then you're having something like this, this is the next target for price, right? But then currently, what are you having? You're having this as your supply range, which is obviously most likely to be broken. Why? Because we know for a fact that that's the objective. So how do you equalize on such opportunities, right? So obviously, like the daily is not yet in alignment with the overall daily sentiment. Like this is just a counter, right? We go on H4 break, that's the overall H4 break. It's not actually. I'd you having something like that as overall break. Now on H4, we having something like this. This was our supply area. If we had to refine it, we'll refine the whole demand to this, right? Which is that supply area code. It kind of failed, and then now we're having something like this. Right. So for a very perfect setup, right? For a very perfect setup, right? It's when price comes into something like this, you wait for that M15 thing before you can actually buy into the next high, right? And the next possibility is for price. So the next possibility that you have, as you can see, we also have in this last supply price action, which is here that it got tapped, not tapped as yet on H4. If this buy to price action gets taken out, you most definitely come into this. When it comes to this, wait for that alignment. You like look at Dumishaba, like that guy that's his own thing. Like he swings most of the time. Look at how he always like kind of wait for these alignments to do the right things before you can actually understand. So I look at something that's within that, like M15. Like this is so clean. This is the engulfed candle that broke the next high. And you just want to monitor price as soon as it comes within that for you to actually be able to push price to the upside. So yeah. It's tired. I'm very, very tired. So yeah, guys, let's close it. And